welcome to the Global Podcast. My name is Corin Horn, and we're here to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of global conflict. A Battlefield community playing on PC every week. If you want to know more, you can come and check us out at global-conflict.org. With me, I've got a couple guests with me here today.
Hey guys, it's Starfisher, head TA for Campaign 1.
Hey everyone, this is Shrapnel. I'll be the General of the Allied Forces.
Hi, I'm Robert Willis, your resident ABC developer and Colonel for the Allied Forces.
I am Gwinzer. I am the lead dominatrix for the USSR Army.
And I'm Haruki, probably the only Asian kid in this community.
That's not true. We got Snowwolf. Moving forward. We had a big day today in GC. The player draft results were released today. So HCs, you guys probably had a lot of work, and you guys probably, did you guys get everyone you wanted?
Well, you can never take everybody you want, but I guess that's part of the point of making a balanced campaign is that both sides should feel equally screwed over at the end of it. So, but no, we got a lot of good players and a lot of good leaders, and I'm pretty excited to see how the campaign turns out.
How about you, Gwen? Do you feel you fleeced them? Do you feel like?
Oh yeah, we've definitely got the better half of the draft today, and we're going to smash the Allied Forces bottoms.
It's a lot of trash talk, man. That means probably going to be a lot of good games coming up. So, guys, if you don't know what army you're in and you're listening into the podcast, I know I was in the Allied. I got a PM from Shrapnel inviting me and welcoming me to the army. I'm pretty sure you can go into ABC and click on ABC Home on the webpage. That is global-conflict.org, and check what army you're actually in. Now that the draft's over, we've been talking about the timeline here on the cast for a long time. We can kind of start knocking things off, and I guess the next thing to look forward to is the first scrim, which is scheduled for November 9th, right, Starfisher?
That's correct. In theory, we'll be having our first scrim this coming Saturday, November 9th. However, I say in theory because right now, Battlefield 4 is extremely unstable. We're seeing a lot of server crashes. So before we spend the community's money on a server, we want to make sure that the game itself is stable enough that it's worth the money. And what we're going to be doing is waiting for the patch that's rumored to be coming on Monday and seeing how that affects pub servers. If it looks like that's helping, we're asking the community to go out and go forth in pub, basically. Find us a server provider that you think is stable and post it into the thread in the general discussions. We'll be using those responses to try to find the server provider that seems to be the most stable for the most people when we go and get our servers for the scrim. However, if for whatever reason the patch doesn't do enough and we still think things are not stable enough, we probably will have to delay the start of the campaign, unfortunately, until things get to the point where we believe the campaign can go forward.
I think that's a good comment. I think getting the campaign to a place where, or the game, letting the game get to a place where it's stable enough that we can conduct our business like on a regular basis is important. So guys, if you're listening in, it's on you once the game gets stable. Find us a good server, or you're not allowed to bitch about crashes ever. Right?
I will point out to all the readers out here, listeners out here, we will not be going for game service or multiplayer. In the past, the Euro server was for multiplayer. That epically failed on us. Don't ask me how it had epically failed, but it just failed on us. Substitute of that was game service, a little bit laggy, but we felt it could be better. So keep those suggestions to yourself. We'd rather go with something new. Couple of favorite ones out there, i3D. If you guys want to upload that one, feel free. Might stick with NFL again with the NA server, but hey, golden opportunity to pick a new provider if we can. We'll try to give the best service to you guys out there, because it's your money.
Exactly, it's our money. We're all in this together, so we can all put our best foot forward and kind of try to find the best server for us. So then I guess a week after the first scrim, we'll have the first battle of the campaign. And I guess there won't be, the BFI is going to be a coin flip, if I recall. We've said that like 3 times now on the cast.
Yes, it is. One other thing to note, though, before we continue on, we have a couple threads open in the supporting members forum. One is about our Black Ops, how we're going to be running Black Ops, and that's still an open discussion. Still need community input to figure out how we want to run the different modes, what modes we want to use, and that sort of thing. We also have another thread open for our community fair play rules. If you're not familiar with the fair play rules, these are kind of like the guiding ethics of GC, what's considered the right way to play. and we've been hammering out a new set of rules for BF4. We're still looking for community input on that, though. It's not finalized, so both of those threads could use some more input.
Yeah, guys, like we've been saying, it's on us. I'm guilty of not participating in those a little bit just because of how busy. We're all busy. Takes 2 seconds to just, post what your thoughts are based on whatever, and then like if you are gonna bitch later, you should get your voice in now, because then you can help shape what's gonna be pushed forward. Thanks a lot for that info, Star. So then I guess the next thing we want to talk about is, if you guys can, to both HCs, this will be the Strap and Gwyn's, your guys' army structure. If you guys, I know maybe you don't want to give away too much to the other team to, like, I don't know, help them get better. But Strap, what is going to be your basic army structure? What are you looking forward to do with the guys you've gotten here in the draft?
Well, I don't think that we're doing anything too out of the norm for GC's organization, but we're going to have 2 different infantry divisions, an armor division and an air force division. And the reason we're doing 2 infantry divisions instead of just 1 is that we want to, instead of just having a big pool of players that we try to reorganize every week, we want to try to have some more stable squads so that people know who they're going to be playing with from week to week.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I remember, I can't remember what army I was in, but the few armies I've been in that have had 2 captains or 2 different infantry divisions, it's just nice to divvy it up. Gwynzer, what about you? What do you guys? Can you share anything with us?
Well, yeah, Cheesy's actually decided to break the norm and come up with a quite interesting idea. What we've done is we have split our army into even thirds. Each division will have about the same amount of people, give or take a few. And they will be limited on, well, they've kind of have a bit more roundabout way of what they're doing. We're not going for the bog standard infantry, armor, and air divisions. Instead, what we're going to do is we've got a motorized division, which is infantry focused but with a bit of armor play. Then we've got mechanized, which is the inverse, armor focused with infantry play. And our airborne, which will be as a standard air force, but also have its own dedicated infantry squads. And what we're doing is each of these groups will be getting 10 slots each on every map, and it will be up to the captains to make sure that these players in their divisions are filling their slots and they're getting evenly rotated. What we're hoping to do is get the people who are in each division playing with each other during the week as well, so we start to build up friendships among the groups. They start to form their own little squads between themselves, and we learn who works best with others. And it'll be a quite interesting concept, especially having the Air Force having to make way with infantry people stuck with them. That's not something I think has really been done before.
No, it hasn't. So I'm really excited because it sounds like we have like a new kind of way of looking at the army structure versus the tried, tested, true kind of what's been working in GC for the past, how long I've been here, a year and a half or whatever it is. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, our hope is to get rid of some of the cliques that we've seen forming within some of specifically the Air Force division. That's not a slight on them, but playing with such a small group of people regularly, you start to not make the same bonds you do outside your division.
Yeah, that's really
Hopefully
cool.
this should help to strengthen those bonds with more people. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's what you're both kind of talking, like hoping to get your squads, a group of people, maybe not creating a clique, but a group of guys that you can say, yeah, we can pub. Pubbing is gonna serve a purpose where we're gonna, build some chemistry off each other. I know, like from my time playing with Shadow, Slice, and JD, like we built a lot of chemistry, even though I hate those guys. Anyway, just kidding. Yeah, that sounds awesome, guys. I'm really, really excited. It sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought into your respective army structures, and if anyone's listening and you've been drafted, you guys should be super stoked to be in either army because it sounds like they have your best interests in mind. Speaking of the community's interests, rather, anybody got anything else to say for army structure? Okay, no. So speaking of the interest of the community, there's a little bit of a question going on in whether or not we're going to have any global conflict stuff related stuff happening on Thanksgiving. I think both armies have polls now saying whether or not you're available to.
That's correct.
Yeah, to get to play on that day. If you guys can answer those as quickly as possible, so that we can kind of make the HCs and the TAs can make a decision based on your guys' information. So go poll. After that, I guess talk about the broken game. Let's talk about Battlefield 4.
Well, back to the Thanksgiving.
No.
For those who are wondering on if we will be playing Global Conflict, 99% chance there will be something happening. If there's not enough people for a proper battle day, which is quite a problem, quite a possibility given that the majority of the leadership is American based. We will look at running some kind of fun day. Might just be the standard zombies and races and stuff, or we might look into something else. We'll see. We've got a new game to experiment with.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, we're always pandering to Americans. As a Canadian, I'm just fine. I'm just messing around. I love my brothers to the south. I want to talk about the game. I've put in I don't fucking know how many hours I put in. 30 hours. Let me see here. A lot of hours, and I actually haven't been crashing as much as other people have. I think I'm just lucky, or I haven't been putting. I don't know, but have you, Shrap, have you put in enough time to kind of get a feel of, okay, I know on these maps, this is, the strategy started to formulate in your head yet, or is it still kind of in its infancy? The game?
Still in its infancy. I haven't had a whole lot of time to play, unfortunately. I think I'm only rank 4, so it only a few hours played so far. But it's you think about that while you're playing. If you've been in HC before and you know that you're going to be FCing those maps, you definitely look at that while you play and try to start thinking about what you're going to do once you get your army there.
How about you, Rob? You been able to play enough? Have you played in commander mode yet, Rob?
I haven't had a chance to play Commander mode yet. I've only played it for 2 days because limitations. But I tell you what, I was playing with the guys when we got the arms again, and I always start thinking where we can attack, how we can attack. Different flags are important. Taking out a building because it's providing too much cover for people. Maybe using a boat to get around the enemy because they're all on the land. That kind of stuff's already coming to me as it is. And it's also getting back my old squad leader skills.
I guess it's been a while for you being a TA for like 1,700 years.
For the last 3 or 4 campaigns, yeah. No, it's very interesting to be back in the old squad leader role, but it's going to be interesting. Shame the game's, laggy, a bit buggy, but I'm not going to criticise or bitch or whine or, start a riot. It's a new game, it's a new engine. Yeah, sure, EA, DICE should know their ways, but you've put up them for like 10 years now, and this is standard procedure for them. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like, I fully expected this, but I mean, you can't really blame people. You buy something, that's, I guess, maybe not something we're, able to talk about here.
There is, I'm not sure how many people realize actually how to develop a game, but unlike, let's say, Apple, it's the same thing with any development, especially with mobile apps. The thing with Apple, it's all standardized hardware, all standardized software. You come to a computer, PC, Windows, AMD, Nvidia, the different distributors between that, different RAM, different CPU settings, different GPUs, different drivers. It's impossible to, almost negligible, impossible to actually think of all those variables into and just to develop a game that runs across all of that. It's not.
Yeah, I think as programmers, you and I maybe have I mean, that's not fair. A lot of people, I guess, can have like the monstrosity that a game like this entails is the amount of code and amount of things to fix things. It is a big thing, but like we've talked about last week, with the amount of resources, you kind of expect a little bit more to come from someone like EA and DICE. We were talking about commander mode and getting a feel for squad leading. Gwinzer, you're the only person here for the USSR, I guess. And have your guys' your HC kind of started formulating plans and ideas for maps yet, or is it still like
at the moment it's basically very, very minor discussions a couple of us have had between each other about potential ideas. It's still a little bit too early for the moment for our playtime to have a serious look, but what I can tell you is it'll be interesting. With the extra assets and stuff we have and the introduction of commander mode, there's suddenly a lot more availabilities than there were in BF3.
So the biggest thing
a lot more to do.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and one of the biggest thing that that DICE is obviously pushing is their Levolution, and I'm Starfish, I've been guilty of not reading the forums and supporting members because of how busy I've actually been, but I think a couple of people were curious as to how Levolution is going to be dealt with in terms of is it just going to be like whenever you want to bring it down, you can bring it down?
Well, so for this first campaign, the whole idea is to figure out what works and what doesn't. So we don't know. I think what we want to do is leave everything as open as possible and then give it to you guys and see what you come up with. Typically, armies are really good at finding exploits, little tricks to give themselves an advantage, and we don't want to try to pollute that process. I'd rather just give you guys free reign and be surprised with what you come up with. And then for the next campaign, if it turns out that there's some significant problem with a map, if you blow something up, we can talk about banning it. But for now, I would say go wild and let your imagination take you where it will.
Sounds good,
I-
man. Go ahead, Gwyn.
I think it'll be interesting to see how these, I hate the word, levolution things will be used in a organized environment. I mean, we see it in public servers. We see a group of people will often at the start of a round, especially now the game's new, will go immediately and go trigger off the levolution events. It'll be interesting once, say, one of these things is at a flag, like the satellite dish, and there's a heap of enemies on top of the satellite dish on that map. And the other army decides now is the time we're going to trigger the levolution, drop the satellite, kill all the people there, then move in immediately. Seeing these things used in an organized manner will make them absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think having like being the fight over, bringing down the tower on Shanghai is like it's obviously the gimme, I guess, but or the levy on Floodzoe, which I think is so cool. I think that's the best. I think from what I've heard, everyone agrees that it's the best Levolution, having the water rise and all that jazz. And I think that's going to be really cool in GC, where you're like your attack paths completely change, and then as an FC and a squad leader, you're like, okay, well, how the hell do I get my squad from point A to point B? And so, yeah, excuse me, sorry guys. So one of the questions I have with what we're seeing with the game, because I played quite a bit of Commander mode, I've been in Spectator mode because I'm wanting to get the casting up here in GC. But guys, Starfisher, Shrap, maybe you can answer this. The server sides, have we determined anything? Or Rob, I guess you can answer this too.
I think we're going to go for 70 slot, 64 for 64 clearly slots for the players, 2 for Commander, 2 for casters, and we'll leave the other 2 for either recorder, maybe a professional one, or the TA if we need to.
Cool, yeah, good. So there's a decision been made. So 70 slots for the server. That's awesome. I think that's gonna I obviously I'm a bit biased because I want us as a community to be able to watch games, in while we're waiting out or after the fact. If you can't make it, you're like, oh, there's such a good battle day, and then you get to see what actually happened. Something we haven't actually talked about with you guys is, do you guys have any negative connotations as HCs? Trap, you can take the floor first on this. Do you feel like, I know there was a couple campaigns ago, a couple of people were kind of like, oh, you're giving away strategies. Like, how do you feel about that, Trap?
Well, that's always a concern, is that people would use the spectator mode to relay in-game information back to the players that are actually in the game, and even the FC to be able to direct the players. And in the past, we've addressed that with having a slight delay of a few seconds delay, so that the information is not as useful. However, now with the spectator mode, where you can pretty much go anywhere on the map, a spectator could join and immediately go to the enemy HC and see, or the enemy base, and see which way they're going out of the base, and see when their vehicles respawn and things like that. So that's definitely a concern, and I think we need to address that as if you're going to be casting in that manner, or if you're going to be casting, then you need to be filming as if it's a sporting event and not with the intention of getting intel for your side.
Yeah, I think that's super important, especially if you're gonna be watching. I think this goes back to what Starfisher opened up with fair play rules, and making sure you understand all of that to the point where you're not even thinking about that, because you're like, I know that for everyone to have a good time, everyone has to have a fair chance. Well, guys, I think that's going to be it for us here on this week's podcast. I want to reiterate what I said earlier with, if you don't know what army you're in, go to ABC Home on the front page of global-conflict.org, and you should be able to see what armor you've been placed into. And get on the forums, guys. Start talking, get on TeamSpeak, get to know who's in your army, get to know your officers and stuff like that. And I'm really excited, guys. I want to thank my guests, Shrapnel, Rob, Windsor, Haruki, and
Haruki.
Mr. Blue in the background. As always, thank you so much, Mr. Blue. We'll catch you next week, guys, and have fun playing Battlefield 4.